in the blockchain and crypto space to come at their view. So it's an interactive program, educative program. So we discuss about different topics and a lot of things that are happening in the blockchain, crypto, and fintech ecosystem. So my name is Lee Richamon, and I'm the anchor as usual. So it's OKX Talks again, and today we are talking about impact of blockchain conferences and events. So we're going to be looking at some of the impacts of blockchain conferences that we're making in educating people about the ecosystem and also onboarding many people in the ecosystem. So I have with me, we have three guests for this interesting topic. So, and it's all. Yeah, uh, we have some technical issues. Pretty, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, you're welcome to the show. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
thank you very much. So joining her also is Julian Gossin, our award-winning editor.
Hello, how are you? I think there's a slight issue, is there? Is it just me?
No, I think they're having some technical issues on their side.
I'm glad it's not me this time. Makes a change.
Please go ahead.
Do we, what, self-moderate?
Okay, I will talk to Lisa Gibson, Gibbons, GBA Deputy Ireland. I know she's joining us very soon. So, OKS Africa, follow them on Twitter and follow at OKS Africa. We'll go for a short break. When we return, we dive into the discussion proper. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. It's still OKX. Talks are brought to you. We're talking about the part of blockchain conferences and events. We have our amazing guests who are going to be helping us to do justice to this interesting topic. So, conferences that have been happening. Blockchain conferences and summits are a good way of educating people about blockchain and cryptocurrency. Start with you, Pretty. Pretty, can you hear me? Please go ahead.
Hi, I can hear you. Are you able to?
I was going to say maybe Pretty, if you introduced yourself, that might be an idea. We could do that. What do you think?
Excellent. That's a good idea. Pretty Kubiane. I'm based in Sandton, South Africa. I'm a co-founder of Coronet Blockchain. It's a supply chain solution. We have a marketplace that authenticate the quality of products and make it easy for global manufacturers and local retailers to trade together.
Very important. Wow. My name is Gillian Gotzel.
Yes.
I'm a journalist based in Ireland. Yeah, that's how I'm usurping your place here, Lee. I'm a journalist based in Ireland, and I'm FinTech originally, but I write on blockchain and cryptocurrency and Web3, and I write for my own channel, which is blockleaders.io. And I'm hoping that Lisa's going to be joining us here today as well. She also works with me. We work together. And I also write for things like Cointelegraph and CoinDesk and HackerNoon, a variety of different publications. And I love the space. It's just fascinating and amazing. So it's very cool to be here. Will I ask the first question? I'm going to ask you, Pretty. So I'm a journalist. I'm going to jump in. The first question was, our conferences, how good are conferences and the benefits of conferences and meetups and stuff like that? How do you find them? Do you attend many of them?
Definitely. I'm also a speaker. I think we attend at least 100 conferences and interviews a year. So we have found the conferences to be a very good place for education. We strongly believe that for any adoption for a technology and for the impact to be seen, there has to be education, there has to be the implementation, and then there has to be the technical side. So education of that is very important, especially in conferences. I often say that's a place where you learn from people that are practically implementation more than you do in school. I know in school there's lots of case studies that you get to learn, but there you learn in real time. Is a very good place for best practice.
I totally agree. I attend a lot of conferences as well. Well, pre-COVID, of course, it's opening up now again, and I would have traveled the world. I actually went to Cape Town for a conference once as well. Amazing trip. Not great for my carbon footprint, but I won't mention that now. And but do you know what's interesting? I think if people are watching this, conferences are amazing because you meet people, you get to hear the most amazing speakers, and you're chatting away. But if a conference is kind of scary or expensive, meetups. Start with meetups, because I think the first time you go into the space, it can be very scary. I remember the first meetup I went, what is this all about? I don't understand it. And I had like 30 years of fintech behind me, and I just could not get my head around it. And it was nice to meet people. I think conferences are great too as well, because it's such a new industry. There's a lot of, you're a co-founder of Coronet, so that's a really big project, and people can meet you at a conference.
Absolutely. It's also a very good place to source talent, because technologies like blockchain is quite complex and expensive. So you cannot really go and Google and blockchain engineer near me. Funders as well and technology buyers, they use conferences to source for great solutions, as well as they're not comfortable with just sourcing somebody from the street. So it's a very good environment to build relationship, whether you are a blockchain engineer who's looking for work within the space and next exciting project, or a funder who's actually looking for the next exciting startup or bigger projects to actually invest in, or a CIO of a CTO of a company who's looking to implement blockchain. Is a great space to learn what's actually working.
I agree. And I think because it's so new, it's also filled with people who are these people are like we are, enthusiastic. It's not just another tech conference, and people are very friendly, I think, as well. They're very willing to help. So even if you're a total newbie, people will help you and talk to you, and they won't be dismissive because you don't know too much about maybe blockchain, or you're just learning. So I would say definitely go and meet. And then also you've made friends, you exchange cards, you exchange LinkedIn links, whatever. And next minute you're building a whole little black book of people that you might call in the future. And Lee, I think you're back with us again.
Yeah.
You're moving. You're moving.
Yeah, I had some technical issues. Yeah, we are looking at. We're so sorry about the technical issues that we're having over here in the studio. I'm so sorry about that. Our technical team have been able to resolve that. So we are fully back now. So unless I don't know where it's probably. At first, I was asking about. I was seeing if our blockchain conferences have been able to educate people as really expected. So far, I know you've been involved in many conferences. So I wanted to start with Pretty to get our opinion on that. Pretty, maybe you can throw more light on that.
No, absolutely. We were just chatting with Gillian just now and talking about how, for any technology to have impact, we cannot cancel education becomes one of the most important things. And conferences are one of the platforms where you can learn from people that are actually implementing blockchain in real life, more than just theory in school, which that one is very important as well. Secondly, as well, it's another way for people, whether it's you are procuring or you are involved in blockchain on a business to business kind of work, where you thinking of implementing blockchain for your company, or it's a business to consumer, we need to educate our people, because whenever there's a new technology, there's always going to be bad apples that tend to exploit people that are ignorant about the new technologies, what it is and what it is not. So the role of conference to educate business and to educate consumers as well is very important.
Yeah, interesting. I know when I went up, we are discussing about our networking and all the rest of them during conferences. So that brings me to a question for Julian. Has the previous blockchain event really impacted positively to the blockchain community? How would you rate the impact it has really had?
Very positive, because it's pretty was explaining. This is such a new technology. It's where can you learn about blockchain? It's very difficult to figure out where, universities are not really teaching it yet, not in schools, not in primary schools, not in secondary schools. So the best place to go to find out about blockchain is these conferences. And earlier, it's pretty good whether you're a dev looking to upskill, maybe you're a CFO looking to raise funds, maybe you're a VC looking to find projects to invest in, maybe you want to get involved in a project, maybe you want to start up something and find other talent to join you. So and it's also, as the world opens up again, the in-person conference is very popular, and it's great. It's just to get to meet people and chat about these exciting things and find people who are perhaps pursuing similar projects to the one that you are already working in or want to get involved in. So and Zoom is great. This is great. We're chatting now. It's wonderful. But in-person conferences are definitely the way to go.
Okay, thank you very much. Really, that's a very good one. Also, our audience, you know how we do it on the show. Do drop your questions if you have questions or comments about this discussion. Do where to drop it very soon. We'll get into that segment where we take your questions and our guests will be able to answer them. So let's look at some of the other areas. Pretty, let me hear from you. We've been talking about blockchain events and conferences. Do you think the way it has really been organized is really making the required impact? Or are there ways, other things that should be done? Are there ways these events or conferences, when it comes to blockchain, should be conducted to make more impact in the ecosystem?
No, absolutely. Today, we have a privilege of having conferences that can actually be hybrid. So, one, it has to be very easy to access, whether it's in person whether somebody can join online, whether it's person, it's in person first, then it can be digital. Because unlike in like 1941, where people could not have the technologies we have today, we can reach a wider audience today. So we can use the technologies that are available to democratize access to information and to knowledge, to reach more people. Too, they have to be very diverse in terms of having corporates and having startups and having people from different regions and having people from different use cases of blockchain technology, so that we get a broader spectrum of the understanding of the technology across regions, across industries as well. That is very, very important. And the last thing I will mention is that the inclusivity as well has to be prioritized, because most events, especially industry events, has been very exclusive and cliquey in the past, where it's very difficult to access them. But if they're really going to see impact, they have to be very inclusive rather.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
yeah, she's hit it on the nail on the head. That inclusivity is very important. We mentioned earlier that people are very friendly in this space, so it is great, and and I love the fact that you were saying it's hybrid, because you're right. I mean, even though in person is so much nicer in some ways, sometimes cost, distance, geography. Here today, this has been broadcast out of Nigeria. I'm in Ireland. I'm obviously not flying over for a panel. But I was thinking about impact and conferences, and I had three other things to add into it. And I thought, first off, it was actually a Zoom call before Christmas, but it was a conference call, but they were able to do speed networking during the Zoom call. So there was 30 of us there, and you forced to speak to other people. Now, that was really entertaining, because it was only 3 minutes, the most entertaining part of the evening. But I just thought, do that in hybrid, but also do it in conferences, because maybe to force people to do speed networking, go around a table and spend 2 minutes changing your card, and I'm this and I'm that, and go, I'll come back to you. I think that'd be really cool. I also think to have more impact, conferences should consider workshops. We're saying there's a lot of learning to be done here. There's a lot of things that we need to take on, and I think workshops, hands-on, and people want to teach. And I know that at ETH Denver at the moment, I have some clients and friends out there, and they're teaching. And that's a great thing to do, because people want to impart knowledge and people want to learn. And the final thing I was going to say again, and this goes back to Pritty's comment about inclusivity. More women on stage. I mean, we're paneled here, more women and more diversity, obviously, but definitely, I definitely fly the flag for more women. I think that could make conferences more impactful. And no manels, the men only panels. Get rid of those. Ban them.
Interesting discussion it is. So it's still OKX Stores, brought to you by OKX Cryptocurrency Exchange live on CNETv. So very interesting topic we are looking at here with our amazing speakers, impact of blockchain conferences and events. So let's look when we go for a short break. We're going to be going for a short break. When we return, we're going to be looking at how regulations, we're talking about the adoption of blockchain, the conference, impact conferences are making an adoption of blockchain technology. And we're going to be looking at, when we return from the break, some of the impacts that regulations are making towards the adoption of blockchain and cryptocurrency. Just go down there and we'll be right back. Then welcome back. So let's look at, let me start with you, Julian. How has regulation really impacted the adoption of blockchain and cryptocurrency? Let's start from your region. How has it been affected?
How has it impacted my region?
Yes, the impact of regulation in adoption of blockchain.
It's hard to say, but going back to the thing that we're all online, a lot of my work is international, so it's borderless. And because of lockdown, I haven't really been, before lockdown, I was organizing a lot of meetups in Dublin. I'm living outside Dublin, about an hour outside Dublin. So isn't it funny? I've kind of lost contact with a lot of what's happening here because I'm so busy focused on the international scene. I know in Ireland, in terms of our government in the 70s and 80s, I think it was, had a very strong policy of attracting international tech companies and tech giants to Dublin and to Ireland. It was a mixture of tax breaks, they're gone now, but we also have a very young population and native English-speaking population. We're the only native English-speaking population now in the EU, because since Britain has left. And plus also, because the big tech have been here, everybody's here. Everyone from TikTok to Facebook to Twitter to, I don't know, you name it. There isn't anybody who's not here. So it's a very skilled workforce. So we're very strong. We're coming on with blockchain. I think a bit slower than the other technologies, but I'm hoping that it will improve. So I'm actually, I can tell you more about international impact than local impact. Isn't that funny? Purely because of the way my work works.
Maybe you can make input from that point of view.
Absolutely. When you look at South Africa is very careful, but not hostile. And also, it's not just because it's blockchain, especially when it comes to finance. We have world-class financial systems. So we have invested a lot of infrastructure in finance. So obviously, the elders are going to try and stall a lot of things because these are expensive projects. So they want to cash out first on the system that they've put. So whenever there's good systems in place, sometimes the adoption of new innovation can be slowed down, but it can be stopped. Kenya is very agile when it comes to the adoption of blockchain as well. I believe they just launched a white paper recently on the digital economy, on a digital currency that they're gonna be implementing as well. On the other side, Nigeria has got bigger volumes, I think biggest volumes in the continent, even though there's quite a lot of friction in the policy side. So the policy environment in Africa, I think, is still very much emerging. But the good news is on the supply side, there's lots of demand. There's a lot of blockchain technologies that are happening. There's lots of investments that has been made, but policy is playing catch up.
The policy is playing catch up. Interesting one. Let me get some of the impacts. We're talking about different impacts from conferences. We're looking at regulations now. Let me see the impacts you are making in the ecosystem. What are some ways you are making impacts? Let me start with your PT. What are some ways you are making impacts in the blockchain ecosystem? I know you are the co-founder of Informal.
No, absolutely. Africa is largely informal. Most of industries, countries like Uganda has got about 94%, 96%, yes, 96% of the economy being informal, compared to Norway, where only 4% is like an inverted pyramid when you look at it. So the good news is there is value that is here in Africa. There is money exchanging hand. So the use of the blockchain technology to actually democratize that value, to stay more at home and to stay more into the region, for our currencies to stay more into the region, is the impact that we are seeing with our implementation of blockchain across the supply chain. The second thing we are seeing as well is the SDGs. We are seeing a lot of what's happening there. I think we meet about at least 60% of the SDGs with the implementation of our technology. And the last part, we've recently had the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, and we are seeing blockchain enabling the implementation of many of what needs to be done, because the policy itself is very good at pointing us as to which areas are the most priority for the continents to move forward. But blockchain technology is actually doing that at a very good speed compared to how things have been in the past in our practical experience.
Yeah, interesting. Let me hear from you, Julian.
Well, I'm just listening to Pretty again, and I'm very much enjoying this conversation. And I'm loving that her project is having such a good impact, a positive impact through on the supply chain side of things, which is very important, obviously. And so my role in terms of making an impact, what I do is, as a journalist, I like to speak about projects that are successful. So listening to Pretty here, I'm drinking it all in. At a future date, I might be able to interview her, or I mean, I have done in the past. Many of your guests have ended up guests on my show or in my writing. So my role is to, as a journalist, is to educate. Well, sorry, is to highlight first of all projects, interesting people, see whatever's happening, to talk about it, to make it, to inform other people, to spread the word, basically. I'm also very much involved in education because it's to explain it. Like recently, I have a couple of radio shows here in Ireland, and they're both they're ordinary radio shows. They're not crypto, they're not fintech, they're not anything. But I sneak in a lot of crypto people, a lot of Web3 people onto my shows. And last week I had Jordan Gray, who's from the NEAR Foundation, talking about DAOs, so decentralized autonomous organizations, and why they're important. And of course, because the audience is a non-techie audience, we did a 101 on what blockchain was, on what crypto was, and what Web3 was. And what I love that Jordan had this really nice view where he said, what Web3 does, what blockchain does, it's for the people, by the people. And I went, anyone can understand that, because we know that Web 2 is not. So that's really exciting. And then finally, and again, with deference to Pretty here again, I try to make sure that I provide a voice to women in this space. So either myself speaking or talking and respecting other women in the space, and I'm giving them, and I'm delighted that there's 2 against 1 on this panel here. Sorry, Lee. But it's just great to have women out there, because what you can see, you can be. At the moment, we know that only 1% of the population, global population, is involved with blockchain. And of that 1%, it's like maybe 7 or 8% are women. We need more women in there, because we just need it. We know it makes for a better world. So that's what I do. I try to give voice to the voiceless, to women, and to explain stuff. And also, may I say, I love being in this space. It is such fun. I learn every day. Every day is a school day. You know, some days at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, my head hurts. There's so much stuff that I've learned here. It's kind of hurting. Oh, dear. That's what I love doing.
That's awesome to learn great impact you ladies are making in the ecosystem. And we are so happy about that. We know we don't have much ladies in the blockchain crypto space, and we're happy to know that the ones that are here are making great impact. So let's for our audience, I really appreciate you drop your questions. Very soon we'll get to that segment where we'll be taking questions from the audience. So if you have questions about the topic or anything about the blockchain ecosystem, please do well to drop them out the comment section very soon. We'll be going to that segment. So let's look at some of the negative, there are some negative impacts of blockchain conferences and events. You know, we're able to look at the positive impact, and there are some disadvantages of organizing as many conferences as possible in the blockchain space. Julian,
no, actually, I've got some things to say. Funnily, and I just seen one of your commentators there from the audience that said that most events are paid, and the organizer aims just to make money rather than to raise awareness, education. And there is an element to that, of course, there is, because well, if you're organizing an event, you need to pay for the event. That is true. And what I reckon, and if you're looking at that, I'd say a couple of things. A, go to meetups. This is just advice, because meetups tend to be free. B, a lot of events will take volunteers, so that if you want to go to an event and hear someone speaking but the ticket is too high, or maybe your company might sponsor you, or you might volunteer, or you might become a journalist and go as a media, different ways. But the going back to some of the negative things that can happen, and this is really pertinent, I think, because this week there's been 2 negative, it's a little bit separate, but if you bear with me, I'll come around to the point. There's been 2 negative things in advertising, about women in advertising in particular. So Boohoo, they had a T-shirt ad on their merchant site, which was banned because it was a picture of a woman from behind with the T-shirt, but with a very skimpy thong. And the advertising authority said that the thong and trainers had no place in that picture. They were objectifying women. At the same time, Adidas had an ad for a sports bra, which they had 25 bare-breasted women, so bare boobs, and their intention was to say, women come in all shapes and sizes, you got to be comfortable and careful. And that was, hailed as a successful, and maybe, it's Release the Nipple, which is another project that people do, another advocacy group. But it is essentially, you have to be very careful. So the thing I want to say is, where it can be bad, there was a conference in a European city. I'm not going to say where it was, because you'll know what it is if you follow conferences. And there was a yacht party, lovely, it was in the summertime. But the picture for the yacht party was the prow of the yacht and a young lady in a bikini on it. And I'm going, and all the women in my group are going, I mean, lovely young woman, gorgeous, whatever. But no, we don't want that. So I think that there can be negatives if you dip into, if you don't raise the standard, like those things like the Bitcoin babes. There are many beautiful women out there who are also extremely talented, but don't hire women just because they look beautiful. So I think you have to really, because there's so many men in the space, you have to be extra vigilant not to objectify women, or other minorities for that case too as well. So that's the thing, that's the only negative thing, is because there's so many men organizing these events, they need to bring some women in. So
Interesting. Okay, Priti, do you have anything to add to that?
No, absolutely. I totally agree with Gillian on what she's saying, especially when it comes to raising the standards as well. Because most of the time, conference organizers are custodians of trust when it comes to the environment. Whether it's TV, whether it's conference, people tend to trust people that speak on TV, people that they had speaking at the conference. So sometimes you always see a tension that they have to face where sponsors are also speakers. So now they tend to allow people that don't really have a best of character to be a part of the conference to speak, just for the sake that, oh, you know what, we wanted to meet targets to in order to host the events, because you need money to host the events. So to find that balance, I know in management consulting, people, auditors that audit the firm cannot also consult to the firm, because you can't audit your client. There's going to be biases when it comes to this. So a conference organizing industry, it tends to be driven more by money. I don't know if there's an alternative to that, but I think they can do better when it comes to screening, because whoever we put on the screen or we give the mic to, we are saying to the audiences, you can trust this person. Whatever they say, we put our name behind it. And then if that person tends to not have a good character, then it becomes very, very bad, even for the brand that has actually been hosting.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you very much for those contributions from you ladies. We are getting to that segment of taking questions from our audience. So still OKX Talks brought to you by OKX Cryptocurrency Exchange live on Coin User TV. I'm going to be going for a short break. When we return, we'll be diving into the segment for questions from the audience. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
That was a great point you made at the end there, Priti.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, true, because there often be a bit of an overlap between you sponsor an event and you get a speaking slot. So, and if you are, you could be a little bit dodgy, or you could be just trying to shill a project. I
Yeah.
know in the old days that probably happened more. It's less so now. People are more intelligent, aren't they? More
Yeah,
educated.
welcome back to the show. It's the OKX Thoughts brought to you by. Yeah. What did you say?
We were just talking about Pretty's last comment.
Hello,
How
can you hear me?
we can hear. I can hear you. Can
Yeah.
you hear us?
So sorry for the breakdown here. So one is a segment for us to take some questions from our audience. So we have some questions here from the audience. Uh, Ishaku Abubakar. I'm always glad being part of this program. Let me see if there are other questions. Crypto Love is asking, most events are paid and the organizers aim to look like it's just to make profits, more to the awareness and education. Why and how can this issue be handled? Did you get that?
Yeah, I think Pretty kind of pretty much handled, didn't she? She was saying that there is a bit of a blurring when you have a company sponsoring an event and they get a speaker slot. And I was saying, I think in the old days you had a lot more shilling, the way people promote products that might be a bit dodgy. But as people get more and more educated, it doesn't happen quite so much. It's not, well, I would say OneCoin, but apparently OneCoin is still selling in parts of the world where people are desperate. But yeah, so it's hard to know. I suppose we just have to walk with our feet.
Okay. There are other questions from Adebayo Fasayo. How can you use blockchain as a learner? So it's asking in general, how can you use a blockchain as a learner? Maybe Pretty you can attempt that. Okay.
I was going to say that there are quite a few online, because it's very few schools and colleges have blockchain as training, but there's a lot of online work. So there's the Blockchain Academy, I know of them, and there's lots of other courses that are online that are not too expensive, and you get your certs afterwards. And I think what's interesting is that, especially if you're looking as a dev, as a developer, there are certain languages you need to do for different blockchains. So, for example, if you're interested in Polkadot, you need to learn Substrate. Rust is a popular language. Python. These are all new languages. They didn't exist. I mean, JavaScript and C++ are old hat at this stage. I'm not a developer, by the way, of course, but I think going online and looking at some of there's also a lot of the MOOC, the massively online courses. But a lot of those are free, so that if you're starting off, you can get some introductory courses that will give you a handle. And then maybe I don't know. Pretty. What other advice would you have for learning as a beginner?
No, absolutely. LinkedIn Learning as well has got a number of blockchain education in it. I would also say, I know one of my friends, she's a country lead of a very big blockchain education, blockchain companies. They develop a blockchain. They have the biggest studio of blockchain developing in the entire world. One of the things that contributed to her being a lead today, it's not even a blockchain qualification, is because she took an hour every day, she still does, learning about blockchain through conferences. YouTube has got free videos as well, through courses as well. I think that if you cannot afford to pay for courses yet, you must start learning. Like Gillian said, there's whole lot of platforms where you can actually learn for free, and then when you get money, then you can continue to learn. And exactly like Jane was saying, because like we work with a lot of university organization, they are still using our use cases to create courses. So sometimes people like us, we figure out certain things about blockchain before they make it to the curriculum where you can learn it in a blockchain institution. So sometimes that's one of the ways to do. Also, like Gillian was saying about volunteering at events, you can volunteer at blockchain startups so that you can actually learn in real life. We get approached by many, and it's weird because most of these students that we work with, they are coming from first world countries. It's a little bit disappointing because in Africa there's not a lot of initiative for students to get involved in this. You can offer like 4 hours of your time a week to actually learn about blockchain if you are serious, from a startup that is implementing real life blockchain projects.
Okay, interesting one there. There's another question here from Crypto Love. I have not seen blockchain event that is organized by government. Does this mean those conferences organized are illegal and not regulated? So I don't really understand this.
I'd prefer a non-government one. Well, it depends where you live in the world, of course. But no, of course, anyone can put on a conference. There's nothing illegal about putting on a conference unless you're going to actually try and shill a project, which is like a Ponzi scheme, like the one coin I go back to again. But no, and also, again, I think the thing is people, if they're new to this space, and perhaps that question would indicate that they're new to the space, go to meetups. Literally, go to meetups, your local meetup, your local blockchain organization. Whether if you're in university, there's maybe a blockchain society. If you're not, if you're in just a local area, I'm sure there's meetups, and go and just learn face to face and talk and communicate, and then get involved, go on the committee. And as Pretty said, invite people to come in and talk. And the startups and companies love to come and talk. They love to talk about their projects. Of course they do. So you'll learn a lot that way. Oh, someone's saying the same thing too there, Lee, sorry.
Interesting. Do you have anything to add? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. Education has been democratized today. Everybody has an access. In the past, for anybody to have a podcast, a meetup, you needed to have your own production and licensing in media and all of that. But knowledge is democratized, and it's no longer a responsibility of government alone. It is a responsibility of everybody. And also, when it comes to innovation, it's the private sector that has always drove innovation. Find any unicorn today is not owned by the government, so it asks the people. Gillian said it in the beginning. Blockchain is by the people for the people, so people have to own their eventing, have to own their own education. I know countries like Dubai, the government is very much involved in organizing events, but the rest of the world, people are doing something because it's by the people for the people.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. It has really been an amazing discussion so far. And that's how far we can go with questions from the audience and also on the show as well, because our time is fast spent and we have exhausted our patience and everything. Yeah, it's very, so it has really been an amazing discussion on the topic impact of blockchain conferences and events, seeing how our conferences have been organized. A lot of them are happening around the world about blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and we really believe they are making a lot of impact. Because when you look at it, even when we started in the ecosystem, it was through our blockchain conferences that we started out and started getting more ideas and connections. Like, networking is also the key to advancing in the ecosystem. It's a very good one, having a major conference. So that's it. Thank you very much, our guest, Pretty Kubana, our co-founder for Net Blockchain. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Well, thank you for being here. It was great. Great to meet you, Pretty. I enjoyed listening to you, a woman of intelligence and passion. It was great to be here.
It was great meeting you too, Gillian.
We'll talk again. We definitely will. We definitely.
Absolutely.
I must thank Lee for the introduction.
Yes, definitely.